For the most part, I think I developed pretty practical lesson plans for my students. However, I find that I often overshoot my expectations just because I forget how young my students are and how so many tasks and concepts that seem so universal and normal to me are still completely new to them. And also because I'm new to preschool and working with this age group, I know that I'll always have to make adjustments to the pace of my lessons as I put them into practice just because I'm still getting used to everything. So when I revised my lesson plans, I simplified a lot of the activities just to be on the safe side. For instance, I had one activity where the students are expected to draw self-portraits, and most of the students can't even draw stick figures yet, so obviously that wouldn't fly. So I altered it so that they were coloring pre-drawn outlines and gluing their heads to the images instead. So basically, through revising all of my lesson plans, I was able to think of more practical activities that would actually work with my age group. By taking some time and really reflecting on my lesson plans, I was able to identify activities that just wouldn't work so well with the students. I find that sometimes in the rush to plan my lessons for the week and get everything sent in to my supervisor on time, I tend to throw in activities that look good on paper but would never work in class. And then that's always a messy situation when the time comes to do them and they're just a little impossible. So from the revisions of the lesson plans, I realized that if I really want to grow as a teacher, I'll have to put this kind of time-consuming reflective thinking into my lesson planning at all times. There really are not a lot of shortcuts you should take when you're planning your lessons, until you're very experienced, that is. One aspect of the lesson planning process that really helped me was the differentiated teaching section, just because I'd never taken the time before to customize specific differentiated techniques that actually correspond with my students and my lesson for the day. So it took some time, but on each lesson plan I was able to come up with what I think are some very effective methods for meeting the needs of all of my students. Again, this was another thing that took a lot of time, but I think it really enhanced my lesson plan and it's going to improve my performance as a teacher and also the flow of my class. Another thing I found very helpful from this unit was the unpacking a standard assignment. As I mentioned before, I didn't really know what standards were before starting this unit. I saw them posted all over my school, but I didn't really think they were anything beyond inspirational slogans, which I know was kind of embarrassing. No one told me what they were. Anyways, finding out what they were and really digging into them gave me a much better understanding of what I should expect from my students, and it kind of gave me a guideline of how my students should be developing at their particular stage. And it also helped me understand why past lesson plans for my class were constructed in such a way. So knowing the standards really opens the door to a wider variety of activities to include in my planning. A lot of activities that don't just promote the unit content, but also help my preschoolers become more responsible, more compassionate, and more self-sufficient individuals. This unit was definitely the most challenging one. I found the assignments were very time-consuming and most of them were quite dry, but I also found that this was the most practical unit, as just about everything I learned I'm going to directly apply into my teaching practice. I feel a lot more prepared now to tackle the challenge of lesson planning, because before, to be honest, I didn't really know what I was doing. I had a vague curriculum, a general idea of what I was supposed to be teaching the students, but I didn't know about standards. I didn't know about backwards mapping. I didn't really think about differentiated education, and I didn't ever stop to think how I would integrate it into my lesson planning. So to conclude, yeah, this was a challenging unit for sure, but I think it has been the most helpful, and I think it already made me a much stronger teacher.